So there's been another school shooting. There's been another school shooting in Maryland. 15-year-old boy fatally shot by fellow student in a Maryland high school bathroom. So a Maryland high school student shot his fellow classmate on Friday, killing the 15-year-old just 2 days after a Georgia school shooting left 4 victims dead. I haven't seen a whole bunch of news media talking about this. If it bleeds, it leads. If it's gory, it's a story. So the more dead bodies there are, then the more of an important story this is. So I'm going to give you some of the details, and then I'm also just going to talk about American society as a whole. Because if we don't have natural law and we don't have constitutional law, then according to Hobbes, life is nasty, brutish, and short. If we don't have constitutional law nor natural law is our ability to use reason, then our lives as man is solitary, poor, nasty, brutish, and short. There's a saying, there's an Irish saying that said if 2 Irish men or women are arguing, if 2 Irish people are arguing, then an English person probably talked to them the day before. So a Maryland high school student shot his fellow classmate on Friday, killing the 15-year-old just 2 days after a Georgia school shooting left 4 victims dead. The 16-year-old assailant fired a single shot at the younger boy, Warren Curtis Grant, in a men's bathroom at Joppatown High School on Friday afternoon. Harford County Sheriff Jeff Gaylor said at a news conference other students removed Warren from the bathroom soon after the shooting, and he was treated by school nurses and the principal. Warren died later that day at a trauma center. Police arrested the teenage suspect, whose identity has not yet been released because he has not been charged yet. So we know the victim, right? So RIP to Warren Curtis Grant. Now, even if you were to get rid of assault rifles, which I understand the argument, why do we have weapons of war on the streets, right? We should just be able to go down the street, go ahead and, go about our business, get the job, go to the job, go get something to eat, buy a couch, buy a bed, come back to the home, and everything should be fine. What's the problem with going out and getting a piece of furniture and bringing that home? So this isn't that hard, right? Other students removed Warren from the bathroom. Warren later died. They arrested the teenage suspect. Thoughts and prayers, of course. The principal's going to say, all the thoughts and prayers in the world. And then with the media being focused on the Georgia school shooting, well, we're going to solve this thing, right? You got all the media all over the place. People are getting this information. We're finding out about how the mother was abusive and she's on drugs and passed out, and then the father is being verbally abusive, and then you have the bullying at the school. So we're going to figure that out, right? We're going to figure out what's happening, and we're going to find the solution to the problem. So we're going to get rid of the AK-47s. It doesn't stop the shooting. It'll stop the body count. So instead of 4 people being dead, then it'll just be 1 or 2. And that's absolutely true. That's absolutely true. But there's a sickness. There's something that's happening in America that even if you were to get rid of the assault rifles, you still have to allow rifles, shotguns, and pistols because of the Second Amendment. So there's guns and the Second Amendment, and until you have a constitutional convention, you're not going to get rid of the Second Amendment. So unless you're talking about changing the Constitution itself, unless you have conventions or amendments, then the Second Amendment stands. And the reason for the Second Amendment is to stop tyranny. So police were well acquainted with the 16-year-old shooter. He's been the victim, witness, or suspect in 10 incidents since 2022. What the hell is that? So the person's been a victim, witness, or a suspect? I mean, if you're a witness or if you're a suspect, well, that's different. That means you're a part of the crime. If you're a witness, that means you live in a dangerous neighborhood. If you're the victim, then that means you're being bullied and you're the one being criminalized over and over again. He's a 16-year-old student at the school. This was his first day. There were 4 days in the school year. Said that something about criminal-friendly legislature in the state. Officials have enough overwhelming evidence against the suspect to file charges. He said the suspect is going to be officially charged on Saturday. So why are we not talking about Maryland? Why are we not talking about Maryland? I mean, that's closer to the capital. That's up there in New England. We're going to sit there and say, look what's going on in Georgia, but this shit's happening in the northern states as well. Police involved in shooting incident near Santa Fe Plaza. So there's shootings that happen all the time. No officers were injured in the incident. The suspect was injured. He's in custody. Defile de la Gente parade was canceled. Santa Fe Plaza. This is New Mexico. So you had a shooting incident that had happened 10:30 a.m. on Sunday. Police had closed off Washington Avenue. They're not saying what the details were, but shooting incidents happen all the time. That's really my main point with talking about these other ones. Man charged after deadly shooting in Guilford. Police say Guilford, New Hampshire. Well, New Hampshire is going to go red. They're about to elect themselves a Republican governor. So another man has been charged. There's a Republican race in New Hampshire. Live free or die state, right? So the Guilford Police Department said around 9:45 p.m. on Friday they responded to a 911 call on Timber Lane. There was a request for fire and police for a man suffering a gunshot wound to the chest. The man died. Another man's been charged after a shooting. So that's good, right? You actually captured the person that was doing the shooting. There's a big-ass manhunt that's going on right now on Interstate 75. When officers got there, they found a man dead inside the house. What if we were to focus on that, you know, the I-75 shooting, just like every other shooting that's out here? Sometimes it seems like if it happens in the inner city or if it happens, you know, they'll say it's just an isolated thing. Do we know our constitutional law? If we knew our constitutional law, then you're allowed to protest, you're allowed to speak, you're allowed to demonstrate. As long as you have a peaceful assembly, you're allowed to petition, you're allowed to pray, you're allowed to have freedom of religion. And then, you know, there's the 3rd Amendment, 4th Amendment, 5th Amendment, 6th, 7th, 8th, no cruel and unusual punishments. If we were getting those values into our bones, into the marrow of our bones, into our bloodstreams, then we would be doing constitutional law. People would have a problem and they say, well, shit, my Constitution allows me to march. I'm allowed to protest. I'm allowed to peacefully demonstrate. I could go to the press. And instead of just doing jungle law where it's man versus man, and again, what we heard is that the life of man is solitary, poor, nasty, brutish, and short. You got jungle law, you got natural law, and you got constitutional law. I remember being in high school and I wasn't allowed to teach to the other students about the Constitution. There was this search. They made us all line up and then they did this big search. So we're not allowed to know the 4th Amendment. The 1st Amendment is just freedom of religion, says my social studies teacher. I thought it was freedom of speech. Later on, I pointed out to her that it was freedom of speech. She said, so? Well, what the hell is that shit about? You don't want us to know about our freedoms? We're Americans. At the very least, there's a Supreme Court case, Tinker v. Des Moines. So students have a right to speak as well. They can wear something on their arm, a black armband protesting the Vietnam War. That goes to the Supreme Court and you're allowed to do that. So that's one little freedom that students are allowed to have. But if the teachers who's being authoritarians and they're worried about classroom management, shut up, sit down, it's a dictatorship, then they're not going to tell you about your freedoms because they don't want you to be free. They don't want you to be free. Be free to do as they tell you to do. And then if you're not happy with their oppression, well then just get the hell out of here. Do you think that maybe the oppression has something to do with it? The poverty? You think that there's major issues? He's being abused at his house. He's being abused by his drug-addled mother. He's being abused by his, you know, father who seems to have this mixed, like, love-hate relationship with him. He's also being bullied. So, Nashville teen, an 18-year-old is dead. When I think about Maryland shooting, what happened with the Maryland shooter? I bet you all those same elements are there too. There's, you know, a gun culture. There's this, the streets are being different. He has to deal with this crap on the streets. And then you got these teachers who's being paid, you know, 5-6 figures to just tell him to shut up and sit down. Meanwhile, as soon as he walks out of school, he's got to deal with real life. And so it's almost like you got this microcosm in school it's not even reflective of reality in real life. You go to school and maybe that's the only place where you get structure, so I could understand something about that. And so you try to spend as much time as you can in school. But if you go back and you know, there's poverty and there's crime and then there's police fascism. So they're not, you know, you got criminal cops, you got criminal citizens, and there's nobody that the people could go to. And then if they stand up for themselves, you know, like Akira Fletcher, then she gets thrown in jail. Nashville, Tennessee, an 18-year-old is dead. A 20-year-old is in critical condition. So 18-year-old, he just graduated, right? We would assume. South Nashville. Officers responded to the scene at Buchanan's Buchanan's nightclub around 2:30 a.m. on Sunday. 2 victims had been shot. And then we're believing whatever the police tell us. We're just writing it verbatim as they say it. Akira Fletcher was not the perpetrator. She was the victim. But Akira Fletcher, who's pregnant, who defended herself, is sitting in jail right now. A Metro Nashville Police Department release said Yasser Paz, 18, and Kayal Naeem, 20, were the 2 friends in the nightclub parking lot. When a vehicle drove up beside them, witnesses described the vehicle as a dark Chevrolet Suburban. Is it any wonder that people are joining gangs? You got Confederates and Nazis and KKK. You also have the Trin de Agrua, MS-13, Bloods, Crips. Is it any wonder that people are joining gangs? They got their family. They got their tribe. The police ain't doing shit. The courts ain't doing shit. The neighborhoods are not doing shit. So people are just being tribalistic. They're just finding their own little tribe, their own little gang, their own little family. And then they're trying to, make their little family work. No other information is given about that. So you're hearing about shootings in Tennessee. You're hearing about shootings in New Mexico. Here's a man arrested following a Perry County shooting. Perry County. So this is Kentucky. One man is facing several charges after a shooting in Perry County at approximately 11:30 a.m. on Saturday. Officials with the Perry County Sheriff's Office responded to a home on Happy Circle. After an investigation, officials believed a 20-year-old man fired several shots into a home. Officials arrested him, and he's charged with 9 counts of attempted murder. Okay, that sounds like they're on it, and they figured out what's going on. But they're also not really telling us why it happened, who it happened to, who is this person. A lot of information is not being told to us. So, no injuries were also reported. No injuries, so let's see. Here's one man is hospitalized after an overnight shooting. John Lee Harold has been arrested. A man is in the hospital. Another is behind bars after a shooting in the Cedar Grove area of Kanawha County on Friday. This is West Virginia. So you got shootings happening in, Tennessee, West Virginia, Kentucky, New Mexico. The sheriff's office said the call came in around 11:40 p.m. Metro dispatchers received a call stating someone was outside the Cedar Grove Fire Department claiming to have been shot. Once deputies arrived, they found the victim, 62-year-old male from the Cedar Grove area with a gunshot wound to the lower leg. Officials say the shooting was a result of an altercation between the victim and the suspect, John Lee Harold, 59, of Cedar Grove. Both Republicans and Democrats are coming after our freedoms. One is saying, well, let's go ahead and just get rid of the Bill of Rights. And the other one is saying, let's up the fascism. If we just had more fascists around, just put more people in uniform, more officers, more fascism, more authoritarianism. You need that, strict hierarchy. That's what is needed in society. Or we need to get rid of the Bill of Rights. We need to take away from the Bill of Rights. No, we need to learn our Bill of Rights. This is supposed to be a free country. And so if you hear about a person passing out a petition, you don't abuse that person who's passing out a petition. Harold is being charged with 1 count of felony, malicious wounding. So you have this shooting that's happening in West Virginia. Do we have any more information about the Maryland shooting? Yeah, here's another thing about the Maryland shooting. So at Joppatown High School in Maryland, 1 student dead, another